But by night, in the comfort of home, Jerry Griffin becomes this giant lizard.
He's just wailing on him.
Who likes to kill things.
So he's almost dead.
So he's almost dead. So
oops, there he goes.
He's on it constantly.
Jerry's wife, Renee.
He has got to play the game the minute he gets in the house. See, he knows. He eats his meals here. That's his table. Is this true?
Yeah.
Jerry.
The imaginary world that consumes Griffin's life is a game. An online role-playing computer game called EVERQUEST.
EVERQUEST.
We got a couple people from Australia. We have people from England.
About 100,000 people around the world are playing it at any given moment.
Portland, Missouri, so all over the place.
Everyone pays a monthly subscription fee, usually about $13, to get in on the action, joining other made-up characters on wild adventures.
So you can pick your face.
Okay, there's a nice face.
They're sort of online interactive scavenger hunts. You kill enemies and vanquish rivals and overcome obstacles along the way.
Whoa. So we're in a tunnel?
Right, we're in a tunnel, we're in a cave.
But along the way to what? Well, to more EVERQUEST. This game never ends. No one ever wins.
And are we looking for something, or is somebody after us, or oops, somebody just ran by.
Yep.
The reward is in the play, and that just goes on forever.
So you really do have to just play and play and play and play.
Yep.
These games didn't even exist a decade ago, but it's projected that in 3 years, more than 100 million people will be playing them. And 1 in 10, researchers say, will have trouble quitting. For some, it can be as hard as giving up an addictive drug.
We're taking forever to kill this guy.
As the most popular such game ever, EVERQUEST, its critics say, ought to be called EVERCRACK.
Did you lose ground because we were doing an interview?
No, not really.
Jerry's so deeply into the game, it's hard to keep his attention, even when you're talking to him.
Do you think this is addictive?
It can be.
Do you think that he is, in a sense, addicted to this game?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's definitely addicted to it. He won't admit it. He is. He can't live without it.
Jerry admits to playing at least 20 hours a week.
He gets up in the morning and plays before he goes to work.
And he's been playing now for almost 3 years.
I want my girls to be able to have him as a father, not as a fixture in our house in front of the computer.
Are you at all a little ashamed of this, or self-conscious, or chagrined, or anything? I mean,
of course.
You act like this is sort of out of your control.
Sometimes I feel like it is.
It's realistic enough to believe, but it's escapist enough to just relax and have a great time. And I think that's what makes it so horribly addictive.
And so much fun, say its biggest fans, hundreds of whom gather 4 times a year for fanfare.
I'm nobody in real life, but I'm somebody in EVERQUEST, damn it. I'm addicted to it.
We brought the 4 items you need to make your potion.
Here, players meet for a real-life version of the game.
We're getting our butt kicked.
Thank you very much, Martin. We'll try to solve your puzzle.
Thank you.
Step forward.
They love the game, but they've learned to set limits.
Boy, it consumes your life if you're not careful.
EVERQUEST, while being a fantastic experience, is no substitute for living, breathing people.
Oh, really?
A living, breathing fantasy world, live on the internet.
That's how the game's maker, Sony Online, promotes it.
Arm yourself with a variety of fantastic weapons and magical spells.
It's easy to see how you might be drawn into the enchanting world of EVERQUEST and then have trouble ever getting out. After all, here there are chances for adventure and heroism and romance rarely found in real life. It's all great fun, unless, of course, you start to think that it is real life, or at least a much more interesting place to be than the real world. In the real world, or at least as real as it gets in Beverly Hills, we tracked down Ben Stein. Come in quick, okay? Yeah. Okay.
Bridget.
Hello, Bridget.
You know Ben Stein.
Hello, I'm I'm Ben Stein.
Speechwriter turned comedian.
Ben Stein's Monday.
He is known for being funny, but he's dead serious about EverQuest.
But it's a game. So what?
It's a game, but it's a game that's a dangerous game. This one is different. This one is so intoxicating, so seductive.
And he says it almost destroyed his 15-year-old son, Tommy.
Your father says you were addicted. He uses that word.
Mm-hmm.
You agree?
Yeah.
How many hours a day would you play?
On the weekends, pretty much all weekend. On weekdays, like an hour or two a night.
No, more than that. And has many a time stayed up all night playing this game. It was as if he had a demon living inside him. I mean, it was as if he had some kind of evil spirit living inside him.
How did he change?
The way they describe drug addicts, he became moody, solitary, except for the computer, and obsessed with it to the extent of that it excluded everything else in his life.
Desperate, the Steins sent him away to boarding school, where such games are not allowed.
Finally, it worked, and he became more interested in real life and less interested in the conjured-up fake life on EverQuest. And I think if Sony really searched their heart about it, they would stop making it.
This mother agrees, saying that game drove her son to a deadly decision.
And there he was sitting on a chair with the gun. The computer was on and the EverQuest game was on it.
That's next.
Hi! Hey, how you doing? Hi! Here's what I do back. Hi! My name is Sean Woolley.
Sean Woolley grew up in rural Wisconsin.
Oh, there's Patch. Oh, how are you, Patches?
On the surface, a happy-go-lucky kid.
He liked to be very theatrical at whatever he was doing.
Hey, you get that on my face!
When he had the camera on him, he'd always like to have a face or an expression that was saying, hey, this is me.
Johnny, come here.
His mother, Liz, was especially proud of his accomplishments.
This is his graduation.
Typical graduation.
1998 he graduated. It's a big day for him.
Because, she says, all his life, Sean had to struggle with learning disabilities and significant emotional problems.
This is at his apartment that he moved into.
So it was a big deal when last year he got a job and a new apartment.
Clean apartment, and we fixed it up nice. You know, we all worked together, and he had it nicely furnished. It's a cute place.
Liz did all she could to help him find his way. It wasn't enough.
This is where Sean is buried. If it wasn't for my faith, I don't know where I'd be right now. Because this is so hard that you don't want to live after it happens.
Last Thanksgiving, 21-year-old Sean Woolley committed suicide.
It was about 10 in the morning. And
his mother found him at his apartment.
I was knocking, he didn't answer. And then I tried the door and it opened. And sure enough, it was still unlocked from the day before. And I knew it then. Here he was sitting in front of that EverQuest game.
Police photos tell the story. Sean shot himself at his computer. On the screen, the online computer game, EverQuest.
It was still on?
Yes. It's that damn game. He shot himself because of the game.
Liz says she now realizes that he was completely addicted, night and day. He may have had other problems, but she thinks EverQuest pushed him over the edge.
He couldn't stay off it. That's how strong that game is. You can't just get up and walk away.
At the end, she says, the game became his life.
What is all this?
These are all the files it takes and his characters to play the game.
Her guess is that something terrible happened in the game to a character he called I Love You, a rejection, a betrayal, something that simply crushed him.
And he was so upset, and then I was trying to talk to him about it. And I said, well, Sean, you know, those aren't people. They're not real people. Sean was so upset. I mean, he wasn't angry. He was hurt.
Sean Woolley's mother firmly believes that something happened in EverQuest that led him to kill himself.
Yeah, as a parent, it's one of those. It's a hard thing to kind of comprehend, get your head around.
John Smedley, the chief operating officer of Sony Online, is one of the creators of EverQuest.
When I spoke with Miss Woolley, I expressed my condolences, and it's really one of those terrible things that happens. I mean, there's just nothing to suggest that EverQuest had any role in
How do you know
his
that?
death. Because EverQuest is a game, and I don't see the connection between a form of entertainment and somebody's tragic suicide.
Calling EverQuest addictive, he says, is nonsense.
It's entertainment. Is a book dangerous? Is a TV show dangerous? I don't think, I think the answer is no. People need to take responsibility and say, hey, this is too much, enough's enough. It's a game.
But Liz Woolley thinks it's a dangerous game and addictive by design.
I think the way the game is written is that when you first start playing it, it is fun and you make great accomplishments. And then the further you get into it and the higher level you get, the longer you have to stay on it to move onward. And then it isn't fun anymore, but by then you're addicted and you can't leave it.
Late last fall, Sean quit his job. He stopped seeing his family.
I think that was the beginning of the end, because then he quit cleaning his place. He wouldn't let anybody come in because it was so messy.
Since her son's death, Liz Woolley has connected with hundreds of other people who claim EverQuest addictions are ruining their lives.
I feel like I've been replaced by EverQuest for several years now. Look at all these. Look at all these.
At EverQuest Widows, people simply vent.
I just found your group and excited to see I'm not alone. I'm a 23-year-old female from Colorado. My boyfriend has been addicted to EverQuest for about 6 months now.
In fact, mental health professionals expect more and more people to struggle with online addiction as the game's popularity continues to grow. Ben Stein's son, Tommy, finally seems to have kicked the habit.
Tommy is a success story. Tommy has gotten less interested in it. The addiction is broken.
Jerry Griffin insists he will be able to quit on his own.
It's not going to be a big deal for me to quit. Maybe 6 months to a year at the most.
Your husband says 6 months to a year he thinks he'll stop playing.
I don't believe it for a minute.
How long do you see him playing?
I asked him. I said, will this game ever end? And he said no.
It all makes Liz Woolley so angry, she's considering suing Sony.
People may look at the idea of a lawsuit and say, you know what? This was a grown man. He did this. He chose to play this game. What do you say to that?
I say he was addicted to it. And when you're addicted to something, you lose your choice.
At the least, she wants Sony to include a warning label, saying that for some people, EverQuest may be a risk. Sony hasn't done that, but following our conversation, John Smedley did order a change, an alarm clock feature, allowing players to set their own time limits.
Do you think there's a vulnerable population out there that really should have nothing to do with this?
And in any form of entertainment, there's going to be people that are going to take things to extremes that maybe they shouldn't. And I don't think there's a role for us in trying to shepherd those people, because how do we identify them?